Look at us. We've already got images up. Hey, guys.
morning.
Welcome back. Good morning. Welcome back to the Pleb Underground, live from Tabconf. Reporting live. That's right, guys.
Live on scene.
Oh, thank you. Live on scene. I'm your host, Phil, co-host, Sir Ulrich.
Hello.
You know the deal, guys. We are going to start off with the daily news. We've got a bunch of topics that we are going to dive into. We're going to take a look, of course, right? The 4-year cycle. Apparently the 4-year cycle is causing a little bit of trepidation. A little bit of trepidation in the
Beautiful word.
Hey, right? So you're like, what? It's my word of the day. It's my grandiloquent word of the. Even that word is grandiloquent. Anyways, we're also going to take a look at that Satoshi statue. I know it doesn't sound like much, but I've got some feelings about this one. I think it looks pretty cool. We're going to take a look at some adoption news. That's right, David Marcus, right? For the people who don't remember him, he was the head of the Libra project for Facebook, right? That got shut down very quickly, and of course, he started Lightspark and began to build on Lightning. And you know, we're going to dive into some news. Apparently, they're going to be taking over They're going to be buying over a company. You're going to look at some weird. What's this guy's name? The guy that wants to live forever, Brian Johnson. Yeah, we're going to take a look at some Brian Johnson Bitcoin news. I don't know. I never actually knew that he was a Bitcoiner. I just thought that he was one of these live forever people.
I have an opinion.
Okay, we'll get to it. Okay, that's good stuff. We're going to take a look at some SBR news because, of course, right, everybody's super excited when the government seizes Bitcoin to build a reserve. Yeah, we're going to take a look at that.
Sadistic population we have.
Yeah, isn't it? And of course, guys, we know the government loves Bitcoin, so we've got another bill. So get ready. We've got a whole bunch of really fun topics that we're going to dive into. But before we do, you know the deal. Just going to give some quick love here to the Pleb Underground sponsor. And we are going to be right back. Here we go. Pleb Underground is sponsored by Archimedes Emporium. Discover the pinnacle of precision engineering, starting with their Bitcoin logo wall clock, meticulously machined in Maine from a solid block of aerospace-grade aluminum, ensuring unparalleled durability and performance. Experience the difference of a product made without compromise. Head on over to Archimedes Emporium. All right, everybody, we are back. Let's do it. Okay, so first post here. Binance CEO. Not that I care what this guy has to say. He's just a plant. But Binance CEO says multiple countries are buying Bitcoin for their national reserves. I gotta be honest with you. That's not the feeling that I get because I talk about this pretty much almost on a daily basis. Do you how many countries are actually buying Bitcoin?
I don't.
I mean, besides El Salvador,
Right.
Right.
If they
there's also, if I'm not mistaken, there's Bhutan.
they're
right?
mining.
They're mining.
They're not buying.
They're not buying. Okay, correct.
And they're hodling, which is good. They're not just dumping on the market.
So who's actually buying it? Do you think?
Why don't he expand on that? Maybe because there's not really a real answer, and he knows that that's viral. He knows that people want to hear, that their lords and their kings and the people that should be worshiping them, or the people that they're worshiping, are buying Bitcoin. Meanwhile, it doesn't even matter if you nor your neighbor are buying Bitcoin. So our incentives are screwed up.
No,
Volume?
we're good. I
Volume's
fixed the
good.
audio levels. I didn't
Okay.
realize they were all the way up at the top. Sorry, guys. Did not
Sorry.
want to make you guys deaf. Every single day we tear down the whole entire setup and we put it back up the next day. Sorry, continue,
Yeah,
Ulrich.
that's
I fixed the levels. We're not making people deaf anymore.
But it's, it's something to consider. I think he's reading the room, and people
Yeah.
want to see their leadership, that people want to see their country successful at the expense of themselves. Bitcoin is a sovereign individual asset. Let's focus on what we, the people, are doing, and ignore what the kings and the presidents and the lords and the ladies are doing.
And speaking of which, right, speaking of ignoring what the kings and the lords are doing, right, while we're all sitting here actually buying Bitcoin, guess what governments can do? Right? Guess what the governments can do? Governments can steal. That's right. And this is what we've been saying the entire time about the SBR, guys. I know that we want to believe that the government is going to do all these fantastical gymnastics in order to purchase Bitcoin. The truth of the matter is they don't have to.
That's
okay?
right.
They don't have to. They can just take it from individuals. And that is exactly what they're doing. This not only got reported by Bitcoin Magazine, but shout out to The Rage. Okay, The Rage also reported this. I believe they reported it first. And yeah, you know, like you'll notice that this whole thing about the 127,000 Bitcoin, there isn't even a discussion. There isn't even the remote inkling about possibly making the victims whole. Nobody cares.
That's right.
It's all about the government seizing it. The government's not looking at it like, hey, we need to do right by the people. So wait a second, aren't governments supposed to represent the people? Aren't they supposed to be doing right by the people? And yet that's not what's happening here. They're just seizing it and taking the asset for themselves.
A pure example of the governments are actually their own. I know people don't want to hear this, especially people who have grown to love their government, but the government is their own private entity. This goes back to the Rothbardian, the Mises, the Austrian economic perspective, that there is no such thing as public property. I'll argue that down forever. When you look at this situation where they, again, Pleb Underground's not saying that pig butchering is good. And
no,
just so
of course not.
It's a classic scam where you have the pig, essentially a big fat target that's very wealthy, and they try to extort, steal, convince the pig to give them some of their meat, aka their Bitcoin, their dollars, whatever, their assets for nothing. And so the government is punishing those criminals like they should. But again, going back to the Austrian form of how you run your economy, how you run a government, the courts should be working on the behalf of the people. So they should be doing their best to find out, hey, that 122,000 Bitcoin,
who did it belong to?
Who did it belong to? And can we get it back to the rightful owners? But guess what? The government is just stealing from thieves.
And it makes it okay. It makes it okay, guys. It makes it okay. You know? It's just absolutely insane. All right, Mr. Business got a notification this time. Good stuff, guys. Greetings and hallucinations. Welcome to the show.
And by the way, shout out to Lucky Redfish for tagging Phil in that one. We appreciate you guys who are sending us news articles. We like to contribute. We like your contributions. We want to give you guys credit for your contributions. This is important to us. We're not trying to steal anyone's hard work or keen eye on the news. So again, this is a group effort in order to bring truth and accuracy into the YouTube space, the Twitter space. We appreciate it.
Yeah, very well said. I just want to post here Mr. Business's comment. I mean, I totally agree. You know, personally hate the idea of the government owning any Bitcoin, and this is what truly worries me when I see people cheering for the government, for the state to own Bitcoin. Like once upon a time, Bitcoin was separating state and money. Now all of a sudden, and of course, right, the whole mental gymnastic behind it is it's 4D chess. This is how we Trojan horse the government. This has nothing to do with Trojan horsing the government, okay? All they're doing is seizing the assets. All right. So all of a sudden, when the government entity seizes the asset, right, and Bitcoin becomes theirs, and whatever self-custody thing that they're doing, it's essentially no different than an individual holding Bitcoin. So there's nothing good to me about the government seizing Bitcoin and holding it at all. Then the only thing that you can cheer for really is that it's going to somehow lead to number go up because normies are going to hear about Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin. And this is supposed to be the net positive argument. It's kind of weak. Anyways,
I will say that the government owning Bitcoin, like I go back to the government is truly a private entity.
Yeah,
it's just another group that is hodling Bitcoin. And again, they could dump whenever they want, just like you with your 10 Bitcoin, your 5 Bitcoin, your 1 Bitcoin can dump whenever you want. I think the catch is that when we think that if our particular government owns another 10,000 or 500 or whatever Bitcoin, somehow that's a victory upon us. No, that Bitcoin is not yours. They're the United States, richest country in the world. Somehow people are still struggling. The poorest countries, somehow there are poor countries out there, but there are millionaires, there are billionaires who are living. You don't think there are rich people who live in Portugal? Portugal is one of the poorest countries in the European Union. Somehow rich people get to live there, and every single other country. The country's wealth is not a representation of your wealth. You have to remember that. And so when we start cheering for governments, separate entity altogether, that they acquire Bitcoin somehow, doesn't affect you, bro. So you need to go do work, proof of work, and apply your savings, apply your earned value into something that doesn't that's not a melting ice cube.
And on the topic of the SBR, here, let's talk about some more wins, right? Some more wins that are going on here. This is actually this is coming out of Cambodia. This is a retweet from Caitlin Long. The Bitcoin were previously stored in unhosted crypto wallets whose private keys the defendant had in his possession. Prosecutors declined to comment how they obtained control of the Bitcoin. And this is
I am Batman.
Right, and this is a retweet of the story from Bloomberg. The chairman of Cambodian conglomerate Prince Group was charged Tuesday by the U.S. with running a sprawling cyber fraud empire that led authorities to seizing about $15 billion worth of Bitcoin. But check this out, guys. This is the meat and potatoes. Department of Justice files largest ever forfeiture action against approximately $15 billion in Bitcoin currently in U.S. custody. So again, another nail in the coffin, okay, for the idea that the government is going to either print money or somehow take profits or something and turn them into Bitcoin. Like,
it's the end game.
It's not happening. It's not happening. They're just taking it. They're taking it when they can. Why? Because they can. Yeah.
I keyed in on that Caitlin Long part where she said, like, they didn't say how they acquired the cold storage, the signing device. Where was the signing device? Did they just give it over willingly, or did they, like I said, did they outsource Batman to come basically give some interrogation practices to make sure that they were thoroughly fearful of their lives to pass it off to government?
It was unhosted.
It was unhosted.
It was unhosted.
That's right.
So it was just a hardware wallet sitting there in the middle of who knows where, like some type of an empty room or something. The government just came and picked it up, right? And I actually just joking aside, right? This ridiculous terminology, right, of an unhosted versus hosted wallet. This is bureaucratic language. This is the language of red tape. This is the language of regulations. Okay. This is the language that leads us down the path of censorship, seizure, the gate.
Unhosted implies that it's a negative connotation from the get-go. Hosted implies positive. Oh, hosted to a layman sounds good. Unhosted, guess what? That's cold storage, guys. That's the way Satoshi made Bitcoin for you in the first place. Unhosted is a good thing. It is cold storage. It is self-custody. It is a bearer asset. Even Caitlin Long, the Bitcoin banker, look at the language she's using in order to encourage you to host your assets in a crypto bank. We've been there. It doesn't work. It's a failed experience, quoting Max Kaiser. But guess what? It is true. The fiat experiment has failed, but the bankers, the crypto bankers, the hybrid people, they're continually trying to pull us into the same status quo that we've been before. Yeah. We are pushing ourselves at the Tabconf to a new frontier where we are building technology so that we don't need banks anymore. Scary, scary thought. Yeah, we don't need you. You need us.
Personal responsibility is not a superpower. Okay, not a superpower. It shouldn't be.
That's right. It
shouldn't be. And I think that we're working towards making it normal again. Right. All right, we are going to move on from all the wonderful. Actually, no, you know what? We've got more great government news. We're just going to get it all out of the way, right? We're ripping the Band-Aid off. Don't worry though, guys. This one isn't. All doom and gloom. It's just slightly doom and gloom. No, not really. Congressman Troy Downing to introduce a bill that would cement President Trump's executive order allowing Bitcoin in 401ks into law. I mean, look, it's paper Bitcoin. Hold on a second. That would cement president orders allowing Bitcoin into 401ks.
We're reading it.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to double
Make
check
sure we
it.
do our homework.
Yeah, but I'm still weary about that one. I am truly still weary about it, and the
Does
reason
it feel like a SBR bill.
Yeah,
not really, but we're going to talk about it, kind of thing.
Well, it's kind of one of those things where essentially, I think it's going to be this thing where, yeah, you can buy Bitcoin for your 401k, but that Bitcoin that you're going to buy for your 401k, and I'm very curious to see how they do this. I don't think you're going to be able to take that Bitcoin and put it into self-custody.
No.
I think that Bitcoin essentially lives on the quote unquote exchanges, so to speak.
Yeah.
And to me, if that's the case, then it isn't Bitcoin.
Right.
And then that's going to lead me to the next step, which is what happens, and it is coming. I've been talking about this for a while. What happens when we start cheering for these businesses and these ETFs that are holding quote unquote, well, not the ETFs, but more the Bitcoin treasury companies that are holding 22 million Bitcoin, right? Because we're going to get to that point, right? And it's going to be embarrassing as hell. Not for hodlers. I mean, I couldn't care less.
That's right.
But it's going to be embarrassing for all these institutions that are LARPing along and cosplaying. And I feel that that's what this bill is kind of meant. Like, I feel like that's what it's going to help encourage.
Yeah. The regulation of these entities is going to be a very, very important step. Because guess what? You have no choice. You live in a world where 401ks are a thing for people who work in corporate America, myself included. And when I look at my 401k, and I think I mentioned this either yesterday or 2 days ago, I don't want to sit in 60-40 bonds, equities. You either pick international, small caps, mid caps, large caps. I'm saying show me the Bitcoin and for my 401k, because I don't want to rip it out and have this massive tax event. Also, guess what? If you can't show me the Bitcoin, show me the MicroStrategy. Show me something as a corporate employee. Show me something where I can get as close to Bitcoin as possible. And then you have the problem where as you start counting everything, Bitcoin's fully verifiable. Every 10 minutes, we start counting all the Bitcoin that people claim to have. MicroStrategy won't show you the keys. We're going to count them. Hey, yeah, we're added up to 22.5 million. And so who is lying? And we're going to have to cross that bridge when we get there. Luckily for that, some of the treasury companies like Jack Mallers, the 21st Capital, 21 Capital / the SPAC, I forget what it's called, CEP. They're saying, hey, we're going to show you our keys. That's a step in the right direction for people who want to trust someone with their Bitcoin asset. You don't need to, but if you do want to trust, you at least want to see that type of information in the mempool.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a measure of good faith, right? Like because let's face it, at the end of the day, he doesn't even have to do that, right? Jack Mallers, like none of these people, like they don't have to do that, but he understands. I'd like to believe, right? I'd like to believe that he understands, and of all people, right, that he gets it and is like, look, this is one of those steps. It's a small thing for us to do, but it is a big thing for proponents of Bitcoin who, for whatever reason, want exposure to that type of an asset, right? Because not everybody's situation is the same. Yeah. Still think that bill is garbage, though. I think all this. Yeah. So the thing that I have about, okay, I'll say this one last thing. Okay. Whenever it comes to stuff like this, right? The governments create these bills get passed, and then what happens is they create more laws around them. So essentially what these bills do is it enables governments to build a lawfare moat around the bill to then start how could I say this, to then essentially start criminalizing criminalizing the behavior that doesn't fall in line with it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like all of a sudden you weren't a criminal, but now because this bill exists and all the lawfare came around it, boom. Now all of a sudden there's something that makes you more liable to be a criminal.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm just
I just
feel like it's a slippery slope.
To self custody, right?
Yeah. It's just a slippery slope, and it goes back to that whole unhosted wallet thing. That's why I try not to use their language.
That's right.
Because I don't want to give it any credence. Did I use that word right? Credence? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, credence.
Yeah.
Credibility.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay. Moving on. Phil doesn't know how to talk.
Yes, you do. You just don't give yourself enough credence.
No credence.
Is that right? I don't know.
Womp,
Credit.
womp. Okay. Let's take a look. That was a good one.
Etymology.
Okay. Let's go into the all right, the adoption stuff. Okay. Yeah, and then we'll do the 4-year cycles. Okay. So here we go. This is the post from David Marcus, right? Thrilled to announce that Lightspark has acquired Striga HQ, a leading European digital assets and payment company. Can't wait to work with the amazing Striga team to bring banks, wallets, businesses across the EU to real-time Bitcoin payments. And let's quickly just go take a look at this the profile of the Striga HQ company. Regulated. Oh, I like that. Right, just like Trump likes the regulated. Anyways, regulated APIs for custody so that we could play with our Bitcoins, right? Trading Bitcoin, banking, and card issuing. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, look, yes, it's adoption, right? I'm not gonna poopy all over it. However, I don't necessarily entirely believe, right, that David Marcus is all about free markets, open networks, all of that stuff. I see that he is building on Lightning, but he is building like it's almost like he's building a massive. Thank you, a massive like custodial walled garden,
right?
You know, and I know a lot of people push on Lightning saying, well, Lightning is custodial, but it actually isn't, because you can run your own node. You can absolutely host your own channels, okay? And you do not have to use a centralized Lightning liquidity provider. You don't. You can, but you don't. Guys like him, though, with it's not about him, but we'll say the people that have the foothold into the business the way he does, and has access to the resources that he has, they can build massive centralized structures around Lightning, and they are going to be incredibly efficient. As much as I hate it, they will be.
Yeah, and that's I guess the give and take with regards to the type of solutions you're going to want to use in Bitcoin in the future. There's going to be, look, in terms of the layers of money. Shout out to Nick Basha for his well named book, but I don't necessarily agree with how he described the layers of money. But when you think about the foundation, the layer 1 of Bitcoin, which is sitting on top of TCP/IP. So you have this open source TCP/IP, this open source Bitcoin protocol. Then you start getting into the custom protocols. You start getting to what does your layer 2 look like? We've talked about ARC, the future layer 2 that's happening right now. We've talked about the legacy one that's Lightning. How do you build the solutions on Lightning? What type of layer 3s within Lightning do you have? Some of them are going to be very custodial.
Yes.
Some of them are going to be very, very self-custodial, like Phil mentioned. And you're going to be able to use Lightning in its raw form. You're going to be using a custodial version like Lightspark. And then you're going to get into layer 3s. You're going to get into countries that are saying, hey, this is our little walled garden on Bitcoin, and some of them are going to be like status, and it's like you can't take these coins outside of this network without permission. There's going to be permissioned forms of Bitcoin, because guess what? You can't stop that Bitcoin is redefining what money is, and you can't stop that there's going to be status authoritarian entities in the future. You just have to figure out where you want your value to play, with all the rules, with all the pluses and minuses, security versus freedom, versus efficiency. All of these things are going to play into your decision with how to handle your money. And guess what? You have choice, and that's the best thing we can ask for.
Very well said. All right, we're going to move on from that one, and It's funny. Every time I think of David Marcus, I think of Libra, and then I think of poor Walmart attempting to make their own bank for the last 20 years.
Walmart has been doing that?
Yeah, so most people don't, and I talk about this all the time. And the reason why I found out about this is because I used to follow Walmart when I was a stonks person, and I found their story about attempting to start a bank very intriguing because, of course, the banksters understood right away. Look at Walmart has like 3 billion customers. Okay, so what do you think happens when Walmart all of a sudden says, "Hey, we're a bank"?
They're going to take a lot of those.
All
bank
of a sudden,
customers.
3 billion customers. Who wouldn't love to have a network effect like that? And of course, the banksters, who of course are not a part of a, who are not part of a club that excludes other people, right? They just told them yes, right? They said, "Hey, Walmart, absolutely. We're going to let you take our bread and butter. Why not?" Anyway, so Walmart has been struggling for that in that aspect. Obviously, not struggling in the overall aspect, but they have been trying desperately to shoehorn themselves into the banking system in order to be able to, and all it really is so that they can pay less fees.
That's right.
Because you got to remember how many transactions Walmart does and how much they pay to MasterCard, Visa, all of those networks. Anyways,
it's amazing how important money is to society.
Who
And
thought?
shout out to one of my old Swan guys, Brady Swinson. His quote was, "The quality of the money is the foundations of society." And guess what? All the people, we're at Georgia Tech right now. A lot of these kids are walking around taking their tech school, but some of them are getting their liberal arts degrees. They're learning about history. They're getting they're learning how to program, which is all good. But until you understand what money is, you are missing a very important component of how you exist in an economy. And I tell my wife this, I tell everyone I come across this who talks about Bitcoin, we're all little economists, and you have to give yourself, you almost have to tithe yourself, not to get too religious, but you almost have to give yourself a little bit of time, not necessarily 10%, but some percentage, and you have to learn about economics for yourself, not just because some class told you to, because they're going to lie to you.
Oh yeah, no, they're absolutely going to lie to you. I remember doing grade 10 economics, and they definitely did not tell us the truth. I mean,
don't ask.
Well,
they didn't teach you about inflation. No. Why would you ask about that? Look this way. Okay.
Yeah, it was much more about exactly, and it was much more about just understanding that the government prints money, and you don't need to question that. You just need to know that they issue exactly. Don't question it. Just know that we issue it. Okay. Moving on here. We are going to go into all right. So this is kind of like a two-part quote over here. Okay. Sorry, a two-part post. All right, so first there's this piece. Shout out to you, Ulrich, for putting this one in here. So yeah, gold futures smashed record high above 4,200 per ounce. Gold futures surged past 4,200 per ounce on Wednesday, achieving a historic milestone with a nearly 60% year-to-date increase fueled by U.S.-China trade tensions and anticipated Federal Reserve rate cuts. Central banks acquired over 900 tons of gold in 2025. The highest volume in decades, as countries like China and India diversify reserves amid currency fluctuations. Now, hold on, sorry. Silver has also reached a new peak above 52.60 per ounce, driven by robust physical demand in China that elevated premiums to 128 per ounce.
I don't know. I guess premiums maybe buying maybe in aftermarket probably.
Okay, yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so here's the reason why we're showing this, right, is for this specific post here from
Mr. Kruger.
From Dot Kruger. That's right. He's the nightmare man. I'll shill you Thor chain and then disappear. Anyways, fear, but he didn't disappear. He just stuck around and pretended like he wasn't grifting.
Right.
Fear of the 4-year cycle is preventing what is going on next door to Bitcoin in gold. This could change rapidly. So yeah, we are going to talk about Bitcoin's 4-year cycle. So, okay. Obviously the halving doesn't change, right? Like, so there's different aspects to the 4-year cycle that I think a lot of us maybe we don't think through it entirely, or maybe we just dismiss certain aspects in order to put a shine on other aspects. But essentially, there is human psychology that plays a role. Okay, so we've got human psychology, the way that people think, cycles of exuberance, cycles of fear. We've got the actual 4-year halving cycle. okay, where the the reward halves every 4 years, but it's actually not every 4 years. It's every certain amount of blocks, which right now is totally escaping me. It's like 210,000.
210.
Yeah, 210,000 blocks. And then you have the 4-year election cycle, right? That has to do with politics. Okay. So right now, I believe that there's confusion, and I believe that people think that we've topped in the current 4-year cycle, right? We hit that 126K fiat number, and because it's essentially, we're not even looking at the news that's going on. We're not even looking at the developments that are happening at the world stage. Instead, there's people just looking simply at Bitcoin in a vacuum. Okay. They're just looking at Bitcoin in a vacuum and saying, well, 4-year cycles had an end, and there's some people that are selling whatever they have to sell right now to kind of hunker down for the next 4 years. And I got to tell you, even though I am a proponent of the 4-year cycle, I do not believe that 4-year cycles are dead. Sorry, BTC Moon guy. He thinks they're dead. I'm not 100% sure. But I do see people, I do see people that are saying they think the cycle is dead, but they're acting like it isn't. So they're telling you, yeah, the 4-year cycle's dead, but then in the back, they're selling what they got to sell to hunker down for 4 years. And I believe that momentum of these people, if it's actually happening, those people selling, I believe that momentum is what's going to create the slingshot to this seemingly unexpected new high that I believe we're going to get in the next 3 months. Yep, I'm making a prediction. That's it. I became that guy.
Wow.
Yeah. We got a womp womp
Do
over
we
here.
have that?
Yeah, there you go.
Never heard you use it. Okay.
Yeah.
But here's the catch. I think you are right. I think when you look at Bitcoin in a vacuum, you say, okay, like certain number of blocks, we've hit that point in time, nothing happened. We hit some sort of peak, some sort of small all-time high. That's it. And now you start running away. The traders are trading. The hodler, the short-term hodlers are dumping. They're taking profits. But again, like Bitcoin lives in the world more so than ever before. Now, maybe from 2011 to 2010 to 2019, maybe it was more so of a vacuum. And now you have Bitcoin on the world stage. You have presidents talking about it. You have, guess what? Tariffs. For some reason, tariffs impact the Bitcoin price. Tariffs shouldn't impact the Bitcoin price. It has nothing to do with it. But according to all the big money out there, allegedly it does. We've talked about this before. Bitcoin is the cream of the crop for investment portfolios for the ultra wealthy, for the institutions. When Trump waves the tariff saber saying we're going to get you, China, then guess what? Bitcoin tanks. And so what you see when he did that in March, it created an almost micro bear market within the bull market. And there are even memes about that. So
Yeah.
From my perspective, if you saw my projections back late last year, I was saying that, hey, with all the Fed rate dropping, you're going to see probably a bull top around October sometime. But I think the tariffs delayed that to a degree. Again, this is my bullish side. We could both be wrong, but tariffs, I think, delayed things for about 4 months, because guess what? That was the bathtub for Bitcoin and equities. They recovered, shot past what they were in March, and now we're kind of feeling out. Guess what? Fed rate's going to be reducing. We have more money printing than ever before. We're still in October, which is historically relevant. And guess what? In my opinion, I think in a nutshell, because people are running away from Bitcoin, they're running somewhere, and they're running to gold. The big money is running to gold. Gold is taking over what you would see as that upswing for Bitcoin. You see gold all-time high, silver all-time high, and Bitcoin is kind of middling. I think that's where Fred Krueger hits it on the point. Everyone is counting. It's almost like they're counting cards, but they're counting cards with a deck that they don't know how many cards are in that deck. And so they're forgetting that there are new cards, and those cards are the institutions. It's the presidents talking about Bitcoin. It's the central bank. And so I do feel, long story short, that we're going to get that upswing like you talked about, and that upswing may only go to 150, 140. We were talking to Matt Hill yesterday. He's a little more bearish than maybe most people, but guess what? It's like we all feel that we should be in that bull season. It's just a matter of how high it goes. Probably ain't going to 600K, but you know, I know, shocking, but let's keep, I think there's still hope to be had for the rest of this year and maybe even a month past that.
Yeah, well said. All right, we are going to move on to the next one, guys. We got 2 topics left, and then we are going to break and go find ourselves. We're going to go harass some people to come on the show and tell us what they're doing here at the conference. All right, very quickly, I desperately want to talk about that Brian Johnson one at the end.
Sure.
But first, we're going to talk about this, right? The Satoshi statue. So it looks to me like the Bitcoin, the Satoshi Gallery is going to be doing a 3D printed version of this thing. I think that's what that looks like.
Some sort of polymer.
Yeah, exactly. Hard hodl. That's right. It is almost time for lunch, and as we learned yesterday, apparently,
we're not going to miss it this time.
Yeah, we're not missing it this time because yesterday we got totally hosed. There was not enough food, and we didn't end up getting to eat. But that's okay. That's part of life, right? The reality is that we were having a killer conversation, and that was a way more important. So, but yeah, I look. I actually do like this thing. I, in all fairness, at this point, this is probably my favorite rendition of a Satoshi because there is no face. It's not the Guy Fawkes mask, you know, or anything like that. It's not a picture of Adam Back, you know, or for whatever reason, a sailor picture. I like that it's completely faceless. And you know what? I think that's, to me, like, these are the Satoshi renditions that we should see.
Yeah.
You know? What are your thoughts on this one?
I do like that rendition. When Phil first shared the article with me, I was wondering, like, is this someone copying the original art piece that's somewhere in, I think, Lugano or somewhere in Europe, or is this a version of, or is this someone that is kind of or is this the company that's actually making a copy of their own piece of work? And so I do want to caution people, like, as we, you know, when we talk about what is art, you know, it's nice to find creative outlets to capture what we think Satoshi looks like, what we think Bitcoin means to the world. I want to be cautious of and try to limit the mimicry, trying to limit things that would reduce the value of the original art piece. And so it's like, I see this thing, and whether it's, let's just say I think this is the company that made the original piece. I like the idea that you keep that original piece scarce, and that it's like, hey, if you want to go see it, you go to Lugano and you go take a picture of that piece. I understand people are trying to make money. They need to commercialize. They're putting their hard-earned energy, their hard-earned money, their hard-earned time into it. But you know, I'm not a full art aficionado, but I just got back from Spain with my wife. I saw a lot of Salvador Dali, and I saw a lot of buildings that were made by, I forget his name. I forget his name, but the great architect in Spain. My wife is going to kill me for missing it, but the catch is, I was joking. I was trying to.
You should know this.
Yeah, I was purposely like fudging the name on purpose, like to just troll. Like, I'm an art idiot. And that's like, but the catch is, like, the scarcity of these products is what draws people to them, and it gives some sort of subjective value. And so I appreciate the subjective value of art, but at the same time, I understand that these companies, they need to make their dollar, they need to make their sats, and they need to turn a profit off a great idea. So I'm kind of mixed with it, but again, I think it was a great original piece, and it's nice to see that they are providing value to people who appreciate it.
Curious, I guess, is catching up on the stream, but he's saying in 2016, we're going back to the previous thing we were talking about, all-time highs and stuff. Yeah. In 2016, when Bitcoin was around 900, most people were predicting 1K, 2K, 3K max. I remember this. This is true. No one thought we would reach 19K. I will say this, okay? The shillers, right? Like the guys that were doing the podcasts and stuff like that, they were shilling not only 20K, but they were shilling 50K, okay? I just want to point that out. Because that's right. Back then, I was listening to the hopium of hopium dealers. Yeah, Yeah, so that no one thought we would reach 19K. Now in 2025, everyone is bearish. We'll probably pump way higher than expected. Curious. I hope that you are absolutely
I hope
correct.
you're right.
Yeah, like
It's scary when you think about all these people that have put their
I
value
just
in
want
the
to temper
Bitcoin treasury.
expectations.
Yeah,
That's all.
we have we have a Bitcoin. We have a Bitcoin, and for every Bitcoin in MicroStrategy, there's someone who says, "I own MicroStrategy." I'm one of those people. I own MicroStrategy share. MicroStrategy owns Bitcoin. If MicroStrategy didn't exist, where would I be putting my value? I'd be putting my value in Bitcoin. However, I'm thinking that MicroStrategy is speculative option on Bitcoin. The same thing could be said when people put their value in Naka or Coincilium or Metaplanet. And so if those things didn't exist, you could potentially see that blow off the top to 800,000. The problem is that there's a dilution of options where back then there was simply just Bitcoin or crypto. And if people say, hey, I believe in Bitcoin, you're going to throw everything you have at that. And that was, I think, what drove that potential, that vertical. And I don't think you'll see that. That maturity with Bitcoin comes with options again, with Bitcoin, custodial options. And again, people are claiming the same coin. And that causes for us to have a ceiling on a potential price for this cycle, in my opinion. We'll see.
We'll see.
And by the way, the creator was Gaudi. I forget his first name, but Gaudi in Spain was built so many beautiful, unique buildings out there. And so, guess what? You can only go to Spain to see his architecture. It's if you're in Barcelona, you go check out the Gaudi buildings. There's like a half dozen. It's beautiful. It's worth seeing if you're figuring out where to go on vacation.
Very nice. Yeah, I gotta get out there. That's on my bucket list, right? I got to get out to Europe, and I got to get out to that whole area, and I got to go visit all these countries.
And be careful while you're out there, because urban centers are they're getting hit. They're getting hit by socialism real fast.
All right, we are going to do this one last one here. We're going to wrap it up. If you're not, this is I guess they modeled Edward from Twilight around this guy. Brian Johnson, right? Doesn't he? He looks familiar. He's all pale, and apparently this is super healthy.
What's up with the pose? It's like,
I don't know.
That woman that went to jail for her
Elizabeth
company.
Holmes.
Yeah, it's like, what is like? She's holding her little product. It's like,
this guy creeps me out. This guy totally creeps me out. I look, okay, so Brian Johnson says the last Bitcoin halving is in 2140. Well, he doesn't say that. That's what it is. Okay, like it's not him that says it. Anyways. I'm going to be here for that, and make sure you are too. Spoiler alert, you will not be here. Your ego wishes that you will be here in 2140.
Taking the under.
Yeah, I'm taking the under also. I just, look, I understand the desire to live forever, right? Especially when you're filled with the hope that Bitcoin is going to go up forever. And it was funny, once upon a time, back in 2017, more people were talking about leaving Bitcoin to their families, right? My kids, my grandkids, right? I'm going to retire my whole lineage. And now with guys like this, he's like, you know what? Forget the lineage. I'm just going to live forever. And I'm really sorry, but this is just ego-driven crap at best. I appreciate his efforts, right? We should obviously strive to live as healthy as we can. We should strive to live, quote unquote, our best life, right? We shouldn't be surviving. We should be thriving, right? All that good stuff. Yeah. Absolutely. I have no disagreement with that, but this whole thing of living forever, that is just a sad fear of death. That's all it is. Okay. And nobody seems to wonder where the hell they were before they were born. But for some reason, we're super afraid of what happens after we die. So I'm just, I don't know, man. This was supposed to be about Bitcoin, but he just creeps me out. And I find his thing, whatever it is that he's chilling, it's just creepy and weird.
Well, it's a weird lifestyle that I think
is creepy.
That's creepy, and it goes into I think a humanist aspect that a lot of people in this world, guess what, they have, not to get religious. I seem to get religious every other episode, but it's like we need to find ourselves a God, but at the same time we want to control what that God is. We want to control it. We want to create this construct, and we call it God. And oftentimes we make for ourselves to be God, and that's a humanist standpoint. And he's taken to another level where he's saying, look, I want to live forever. I want to make this formula so that I can be this godlike entity, in my opinion. And then with him calling out Bitcoin, I think it just shows that Bitcoin is hitting mainstream. All these people who are trying to find relevance, they're saying, hey, Bitcoin is more important than me. I'm going to mention Bitcoin, and now all the Bitcoin people are going to pay attention to me. Look, he has 1 million followers. I'm wondering who is following this person that is clearly trying to portray himself not only as God, but the followers also are trying to make themselves to be gods as well, but saying, this is how I live forever. Dude, you need to humble yourself, stack sats, read a book, hopefully a book that's been around for a long time. Hint, hint. And maybe
well said.
And maybe you should look at what's really driving you in this life, because that guy right there is demonic.
Just creeps me out. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But yeah, guys, this is actually going to do it for today's daily live news. That's right. We are going to go rush over to the table to attempt to get some lunch today. Guys, stay tuned. This afternoon, we've got some solid guests that are going to be joining us. Like, if you enjoyed the guest that we had yesterday, you're really going to enjoy the guest that we also have today. I'm not even going to tell you who it is. You're just going to have to stay, you're going to have to watch. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. All right, guys. We're going to catch you a lot later. That's right. All the signal, none of the slop. Pleb Underground. We're out. We'll be back in a bit.